So we used to have break. You carry your break to school and you share. Because you're young, you just share with your friend. So I remember one instance that we forgot to invite. I don't remember what happened, but there was this one person who wasn't able to come that day to share a break. And I think he didn't carry break. And I think he was a prefect. So he got mad. Then he caused us to like kneel in class. And he released everyone except me. So that incident really made me not like school a lot, because I felt like, why am I the only one who's kneeling? And all of us were together. But also, why are we kneeling for our break? I didn't understand. Then secondly, I think same year, there's something interesting. I don't know if it's Kenyan culture or so. When you're new somewhere, you are not given so much work. So we had a new student join us, and the teacher was like, nobody should touch this student. So me, because I was scared, I'm a very introverted person. So I've learned to be extroverted as years come, but I was very kept to myself. So I remember that day I tried my best to like pass through walls so that I don't touch her. So they were skipping rope in class. So see, I went for break, came back, and they were like, so the girl was crying, and they're like calling my name. But in class we were 2 poles, so I assumed it might be the other one. Then I was beaten. The teacher came and beat me for like no reason. So I remember it was such a confusing situation, because why am I being beaten for something I've not done? And I think that now made that space for school very difficult for me, because I felt as though no one liked me in school.
This feeling, because the fact that you remember these specific instances at a young age, this is between class 1 to class 4. Do you think there was a reason why they were so impactful? Because I'm sure there are people you've been beaten by the teachers at that time many times. Why were these specific issues triggering to you?
Maybe I think because the idea that you're being punished for something you didn't do. I think that's why they impact me to now. Because I was carrying a fault that I was very sure was not on me. And I think another thing is remembering the difficulty with which it was to share with my parents. So I think there was a lot of that in my mind for. So you see, with my brother coming, there's a new sense of responsibility I never had, of being a firstborn, of always having to share. When you're alone, you don't share. If they buy you a ball, it's your ball. But now if they buy you a ball, if my brother cries for the ball, it's my ball. So I think then is when now I felt the relationship between me and my parents started being different. Let me use that term, in terms of I felt more kept to myself. I didn't want to increase the load, because now if I go and tell my parents I was beaten for something, they'll think I was the reason. So I think that's why it's a very foundational memory in terms of my schooling.
You think being a firstborn, as you've mentioned, impacts children in a different way? Because of the sense of responsibility you start feeling on your own. Maybe your parents have not given you that responsibility, but from your own mind.
I think it does. I think because when the other child comes, you realize something changes. Because I think for the first time, because now I have 2 other siblings, so we were 4 in total. So you realize you need to stand up for them a bit. You need to share more than you used to think. So there are things that might not be spoken. Your parents may not tell you, but you just see them. So for example, I remember there's a time I was bought for a ball and my brother cried for it. And there's a sense in me, is like, if I go and tell my parents this is my ball, it feels very, very weird. So there are some things that are spoken, obviously, like your parents would have those conversations. You are the firstborn, you need to take care of these others, but there are others that are just, you presume them, you assume them as the firstborn.
Okay, so after the 4 years, where did you go to?
So I finish. Maybe something I'd want to add there that I think would come back later. So when I was young, I used to come to Nairobi Baptist Church. But it was interesting. I found it still difficult to engage because I'm from Kibra. Not everyone from Nairobi Baptist Church is from Kibra. Some of them talk English. I can write well, but I can't speak it. So, but there was a sense in me that God was important. So yes, I didn't believe then, but in my head I was like, at some particular point I will eventually come to believe. But there's a sense in me that I'm too much of a sinner, even at that particular age, to come to walk with God. So I remember there's a time I wanted to like read the whole Bible. So I started reading Genesis, Exodus. The stories were nice. When you're young, stories are nice. Then when you reach Leviticus, you're like, let me pause there. But I think reading Leviticus allowed me to feel a sense of like I'm a sinner. So I remember that made it difficult for me to engage with church as much, because church is not for sinners. And me, I know because I've read this Bible and I see the requirements God wants, and it's not in me. So at that particular age, there was a sense of, let me say, religiosity or spirituality that was being awakened.
Did you join Baptist through your parents, or how did your parents used to come to?
My dad used to come here, so we naturally just
You ended up
just came.
coming,
So I came here, I think since like 2000. So that 3-4 when still young. So I remember before I went to the new school, this is just in line with that, I had a very interesting dream. So there's this, I don't know if it's a condition, it's called sleep paralysis, where you're asleep but you're awake. And I was having a dream that I was burning in hell. And I was awake, because by then like Nigerian movies were very popular and they had like such things. And I remember I'd watched one Nigerian movie and they were like, if you say the name of Jesus, they leave. So I remember I had that moment when I'm awake. I can feel my body, but I can't get my body to rise. And I remember I shouted Jesus, and I woke up, and from then on I told myself I'll be praying every single day. But I was like, kuokoka, getting saved, let's keep it for a while. So I finished class 4 in Ayani. Then in class 5, I transferred to Kilimani Primary School. So back to that idea where I was saying like my dad didn't want us to be influenced with the society we were growing up in. So even moving us to Kilimani was part of the idea. Because when I moved now, my brother was of age to start class 1. So I was around, I think 10 years, and now he was 6. So we joined together. So I was joining in class 5 and he was starting class 1. So now the interesting thing about Kilimani Primary, first it opened up my eyes to like the middle class of Nairobi, because majority of middle class were there. But you see, those my cousins I was telling you used to live in Woodley, used to come to Kilimani Primary. So there was a sense of, this is the school they come to. They later left, but it was just a different experience. But it started rocky because adjusting was different. So in Ayani, you used to have a shared desk, but in Kilimani you have your own desk that you have to take care of. I'm like, I used to just carry all my books in my bag. Now I can leave books inside a locker and leave. But people were from different places of Nairobi. So I had people, because Ayani was either people from Kibera or people from Ayani. So the interaction was just limited to people you meet every day. But you had people who are coming from Jammu, people from Dagoretti, Kawangware, Udiru, still people from Kibera, but like different parts of Kibera. So you are interacting with, yes, the same culture that is Nairobi, but very, very different. and class 5 it started rocking because it's a new school. You're adjusting to everything. You're adjusting to an electrical bell. You have an electrical bell. But now I think if there's a school I enjoyed was in the entirety of attending school was that Kilimani.
Did you feel like because you're from Kibera, you didn't fit into Kilimani? Did that ever come up during those years?
I think, I don't know. Interestingly, at some point, that thought disappeared. When I joined, I think because of my introvertedness, I realized after being punished, I realized that if you're outgoing and funny enough, people will like you. They won't care where you're coming from. They can care just once, but it's not an easy. So when joining Kilimani, I think I made it a point to try my best to be as outgoing, as interactive as I could. And I guess that's what, if you know me, that's what I seem like. But it was because I like, if you talk enough, if you talk loud, even if you're talking nonsense, like people might not question you as much. So it never was an issue. I embraced it even in Kilimani. So it felt like, yeah, I mean, I'm from Kibera and I'm proud of that. So it was such an interesting space to be at.
How did you do in school, in academics? How were you?
Let me say, I was average. And average, because I don't think now looking back, I'm like, if I put a bit more effort, I could have excelled. But I never failed. So I had grades enough. At every level, I knew I had grades enough to take me to the next level. So I think now looking back, I was like, I wish I could have pushed a bit more in some areas. But I never was the worst student in class. So maybe like 10 to 15 was especially in primary, was the space, like the range I was in. But also because, I don't know why, but you see when you're in primary, especially in Kenya, there was such a huge desire for people to go to high schools. So they cared about the high schools they went to. So they were like, me, I want to go to Alliance. Me, I didn't know any of that. So me, I was like, me, whatever school I go to, me, I don't care. I think there's a point I used to feel like, you guys don't like this space we're in, and I like it. But with the goodness that I really enjoyed Kilimani compared to the other school I was in, Kilimani made me to experience seeing differently. Because now, you see, like, you're growing into adolescence and you're meeting people from different spaces who've interacted with scene in a variety of ways. So there was a lot that I think Kilimani exposed me to in terms of just living life and singing. Now is when now music became like a huge part of my life then. And we used to listen to a lot of rap songs, and they were very vulgar. So that opened my mind to like a different space of the world. I used to be a rapper at some particular point, used to write a lot of rap songs in class. But I really, really enjoyed Kilimani and making friends there. Some are still people we interact up to these days. But also one interesting thing about Kilimani was it made Bapo look differently, because I had friends who were in school, but also we used to meet here in church. So church started seeming very accessible by that time.